Hello, everyone. This is a comparison I've been wanting to do for a while, but I honestly don't know what I'm going to say um, regarding these two sabers. Um, but yeah, I'll try. So at the bottom, right here, this is a Saberforge Redeemer Champion Edition, and here is my Electrum Sabercrafts Aurora Diadium 3 Edition, I guess if you wanted to call it. And as you can see, one is definitely an homage and a reinterpretation of the other. The Redeemer is, of course, Obi-Wan's saber from Episode 4, and the Aurora is sort of a reimagining and extrapolation of the original Obi-Wan Episode 4 saber design. Now, the Redeemer is the only version of Obi-Wan's saber of this ilk that I own. I don't have any other version. I don't have a Korbanth or an 89 Sabers or anything more elaborate than what you see before you. But you can see the design cues and the similarities between the two of them. Now, as far as the pommel goes, they're quite dissimilar. So there's not much going on there that you can relate to one another. That's all just due to functionality. The actual props that they used in the movies didn't even have vents on the bottom per se. Well, not that I know of, but they do have the cubes, and I'm afraid I don't remember all the source material for the parts. Someone was kind enough to comment in my Redeemer review indicating what was what, but I honestly haven't memorized any of that. But so you can see that you've got the cube section on the Redeemer here, and the cube section on the Aurora as well. Next is this little connecting section here, which I think is supposed to be part of a gun or something to that effect. And that is the reinterpretation of the version that you see on the Redeemer here. So you can kind of go down the saber and just tick all the boxes of everything that's been accomplished, everything that's been reinterpreted. You got your switch section with the control box, and that has been reproduced on the Aurora, albeit the Aurora utilizes the switch plate technology unique to Electrum Sabercrafts. And on that note, today I was finally able to order my Scion. So I have a Scion arriving in a NeoPixel configuration, and I went with the white gold Wayfinder switch plate on mine, and that one is going to go red, blue, and green. And I ordered that saber in the black finish, and it will have blue highlights. I'm basically going to call it my Azure Scion. So that's kind of the direction I went with that saber. And of course, I did pick up the crystal chamber, because why wouldn't I? And I didn't order the NeoPixel blade from Electrum Sabercrafts. I actually have another resource for that. That allows me to save a bit on the shipping and save a little bit on the NeoPixel blade. The blade that I'm getting will be every bit as good as the blade that normally would come with that saber. So, and it is compatible. They're usually fairly compatible. Anyway, so as you can see, this saber kind of has a switch plate as well, but it uses a tactile switch underneath this plate, which I won't show you because you've seen it before. Yeah. Moving on to the famous grenade section, which is, of course, replicated on the Aurora. But on the Aurora, it's more of a grip section. It's called a grenade section still, but it obviously does not look anything like a grenade. Although I'm not an ordnance expert, but one can imagine that this could be essentially a grenade, as I indicated in my review of the saber. Both of them are rather comfortable. Yeah. Then we get to our thin neck. And this is where things differ considerably. There's a heck of a lot more detail in the Redeemer and the Obi-Wan saber. A lot more variances in the geometry and the diameters of all the concentric rings. You have a mix of brass, copper, and aluminum, and it really creates a nice pastiche of colors and design elements. And one would think that this would be a very, very uncomfortable place to hold the saber by, and it kind of is to a degree, but once you get used to it, it's not so bad. Your fingers just kind of tend to, if I can get my hand in there, rest in these natural choke points here. Predominantly this one, because you're pretty much gripping it by the grenade section and this choke point wall at the same time, avoiding the sharp edges of the control box, which is rather uncomfortable. But yeah, so this is what thin neck sabers are all about. This is why people love them. It's just an aesthetically pleasing design element, and well, this is Electrum Sabercrafts' interpretation of that. So it's much simplified, and this is actually more uncomfortable than the Redeemer. There's a lot of elements here that sort of make this not a desirable place to grip the saber. Although I can do it, it doesn't really bother me anymore. I'm kind of numb to the pain. It doesn't affect me too much. But you have similarities. You don't have quite the array of geometric shapes and design elements, and they kind of do this funny little, effect here that makes the central ring on the neck kind of look like a gear. Things get a little bit unruly here. These sections tend to be a little bit sharp on the edges. Again, I've gotten used to it. It doesn't really bother me. My hands are kind of turning leathery from swinging sabers. But this is where I believe the design of the saber really kind of deviates. Everything from the neck all the way up to the emitter here. But it still maintains enough design cues that you know exactly what you're looking at. You know that you're looking at essentially kind of a brand new iteration of Obi-Wan's saber from Episode 4. Of course, here's the emitter on the Redeemer. And interestingly, the emitter on the Redeemer is much simpler, other than the fact that you have this ring here with these little holes. It's a simple and elegant design, and quite beautiful. And this is what Electrum Sabercrafts did with theirs. I like the little teeth that surround the blade. And of course, my saber came with Electrum Sabercrafts weathering, which I quite like. And you can see that there's definitely more going on with the emitter on Electrum Sabercrafts version. Now, of course, the Redeemer is not weathered at all. If it was the weathered version, it would look completely different than this, and it would not be terribly accurate. Now, there are saber companies that produce weathered, screen-accurate versions of this hilt. I don't quite have the money to invest in those just yet. It may seem like I buy a lot of sabers, and I do, but I'm really selective, and I'm a bargain hunter, and I never buy anything at full price because, quite frankly, I have to be really careful about what I spend. So everything that you see that I purchase is usually paid for at a discount. Make of that what you will. Anyway, so this is the light weathering. And part of me wishes that my Redeemer came with this degree of weathering. Now, people are going to say, yes, you can go ahead and do the weathering yourself. But I'm a big fan of keeping the sabers, I don't know, kind of, I guess the word is pristine, or as close to the way it was when I first purchased it. I don't like altering my sabers too much. I'm not into customization. I'm not really into DIY. I'm kind of a purist. It's part of my personality. Let's give you a different angle here. I don't necessarily trust myself artistically. I'm always loath to potentially damage the saber in some way, shape, or form. And this goes for just about everything that I deal with. For blades, I have a 32-inch blade in each of these sabers. On the right, for the Electrum Sabercrafts Aurora, I actually have a Vader's Vault Transweight blade. And on the left, I have it's just a standard Saberforge V4 Infinity Edge, or whatever it's called. Here we go. Now, the other thing is, if I line these up, the Aurora is, I would say, probably about 1/2 of an inch, possibly 5/8 of an inch longer than the Redeemer. And as far as weight goes, I would say, to be perfectly honest, the Redeemer weighs not quite twice what the Aurora does, but it definitely weighs a lot more. The Redeemer is more of a heavy chunk of metal. It is a solid piece. If you were to drop this from the Empire State Building, it would leave a crater and probably still keep working. And the Aurora is a much lighter, more nimble saber, although made of the same materials. You can see it's just a little bit thinner, than the Redeemer. It's meant for dueling. The Redeemer, I would not necessarily say that the Redeemer is, a saber that you'd want to be dueling with, just because of the weight and being encumbered by the control box. That doesn't mean you can't swing it around and practice with it and wow people, but each of these sabers has their uses and their practicalities. And don't worry, I'll boot them up and let you hear them. So let's do that now. So for Redeemer,
Ranger's Blade. Heirloom.
I always do that.
Ranger's Blade.
And of course, to get the rumble motor, that's going to kill everything. It's really quite comedic. Oops. And this is deliberate. I have a similar blue. Sorry that's not nighttime. Now that's about the extent of that. I didn't really want to get too into the effects or the sounds. I'm mostly, this is focusing on the hilts and the similarities between these two hilts. And yeah, so that pretty much just about does it for this comparison. Hope you at the very least found it interesting. And yeah, so that's pretty much it for this video. And please subscribe if you don't mind. And if you have any questions regarding either of these sabers, you can feel free to ask me, the perennial experts on both these sabers. I would have to say the Redeemer you'd probably want to talk to my pal Sidious, and for the Aurora, my pal the Arctic Jedi. They have a fantastic knowledge of these sabers, which isn't to say that I don't know anything about them. I'm just I'm a simple samurai. I'm a simple guy. Although I'm Darth Paradigm right now. So at any rate, I hope you enjoyed the video. Feel free to feel free to dislike, whatever your preference is. And yeah, and I'm sure I'll probably see you tomorrow with another video. Hopefully I'll have something exciting for you. All right, stay healthy, stay safe, and have yourself a good evening. My love to you all. You guys are awesome. Take care now. Bye.